Hey everybody, glad you're here. This is the Chase Squirrelson Show, and I'm your host, Chase Squirrelson. And if you're listening right now, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Today's episode is one of those conversations that starts simple and then goes somewhere interesting. So let's jump in. Well, welcome back, Chase Squirrelson fans. Today, we've got another idea that we thought about, and today it's going to be what a sports talk show would be like with two ADHD participants. And the title of this, what we're going to do is our show is going to be called the Loose Ball Thoughts, and brought to you by the Off the Rails Sports Network. So let's see how that would go with a couple of severe ADHD broadcasters talking about sports. Welcome back, everybody, to Loose Ball Thoughts, brought to you, of course, by the Off the Rails Sports Network. I'm Chase Squirrelson, along with my partner, Fence Buster, and it's a talk show about sports, or who knows where it's going to go. But welcome back, Fence.
Always good to be with you, Chase. It's a fine season and good sports out there, and we're standing by to make a difference.
Let's start off with, I want to talk about baseball mostly, but I thought it was absolutely amazing last night when the New York Knicks, I guess it was a strategy that nobody even thought about, brought back Patrick Ewing. I think he's got to be about 60 years old now, and I think he basically is operating on one leg.
Yeah, he's older than that, actually, but he was such a legend and a hero, and it really did throw Philadelphia off their game, literally. I mean, 2 games in a row now, our boys, the Knicks, have won by roughly 40 points. It's unbelievable, the blowouts. And it's because Ewing's inspiring them. I mean, he does the putback so well. Even on one leg, he'll hobble down there and they'll throw it up in the air. He'll somehow get up and right down, swoosh, dunk. I mean, he's amazing.
And the fact, it's brilliant because why would anyone even assign someone to cover him? Right? They figured he's got to be helpless. So so he's wide open by himself.
That's true. They feeling sorry as he goes hobbling down the other end of the court. But then while he's there, here comes that long ball, and he just reaches up and dunks it in.
Yeah, his biggest challenge is trying not to have 3-second violations and kind of hobble out of the lane.
Yeah, that's true. That is fascinating. But the other challenge is, trying not to get called. He'll either bring a cane or a walker out there with him sometimes, and that can be called a penalty if he inadvertently trips one of the other players with that cane. But you can't blame him. He's got to get around as best he can to keep pulling down those big bucks salary he's got.
Let's talk about cricket. I've actually never seen a cricket match. As a matter of fact, I don't know anything about cricket, but I thought we should talk about it.
Well, I hear them chirping all the time where I live. It's kind of unnerving coming from underneath.
No, I'm talking about cricket, the sport.
Oh.
I noticed that India was playing England last night, and I guess the match went on for 4 or 5 days, and I don't understand how that could happen. I think the fans would like to discuss cricket, even though the game is not played in the United States, never has been. We can even talk about women's volleyball. This is a show where we can talk about anything. How about 43-man Squamish? I remember that became a rage after the Mad Magazine article about it, and so everything's in play on this broadcast.
Yeah, well, the thing I wonder about in those long cricket matches is how do they go to the bathroom, or when do they go, or where do they go? That's the most important.
Well, they don't, and that's part of when you're recruiting, you have to have people that have a tremendous control of their bladders, and that's why there are very few people play the game actually.
Well, that is a good point. And why do they go on so long then? I mean, who can reasonably hold their bladder for days? I mean, that's not unrealistic expectation.
Well, partly what they do is deprive them of water. They don't give them any fluids for quite a bit of time, so they basically don't have anything to eliminate.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then. I'd love to see that match. Do you have a videotape of it or a replay somewhere?
I did, but I lost it. I had it. I thought I had it in the car with me, and I guess I lost it. And as a matter of fact, over the weekend, I lost my iPhone. I couldn't find it. And so a lot of people thought I was not returning calls or text messages or things like that. And, I lost that. And I also lost my car keys. So I don't know. I guess that goes along with ADHD. I'm not ashamed of it. It's just the way life is.
They've got chips now. Apple makes these chips that go into, they can put them into the iPhone. You can put them into your breakfast cereal. Anything you're worried about losing, you can just use these chips and it tracks it. But surely you had iFind on your iPhone, so it would pop up. Right?
Speaking of chips, and this really bothers me, why, pickles or sardines are packed so tightly into the containers that they're in, but not potato chips. Potato chips, I'm finding like the bag is half full when I open it. So that's a big problem. I don't understand that.
Yeah, because they're crunched in on the shelf with other bags, and the chips kind of disintegrate. They crack and break and fall into. So you're only getting half as much in a way. Very hard to keep those chips static, straight, and strong. That's what you'd like to see.
A lot of listener messages I get, some contact from listeners is, in sports, one of the main things that people are concerned about really is stadium food. I don't understand that, but you would think that they're there to watch the game.
Well, a lot of people, it's the best meal they get all week, and with what's going on with high prices and inflation and everything, I think they're just happy to be able to get a cheap hot dog or a bowl of popcorn or, a Coke. I mean, they're somewhat reasonable out there, better than McDonald's in many cases.
Also, another thing that, when I watch a sporting event, I really focus, and I guess I hyper-focus, on the team mascots. I don't know why, but sometimes I can't get away from just looking at, what Tommy Hawk is doing or Ribby or I guess, I don't know, the Philadelphia Phillies guy. The mascots don't get, matter of fact, they never even give them their names, and I think they're one of the main draws in these games.
Well, who is the Chicago Cubs mascot, for instance? What's the name of that?
I don't even think they have one. They got some guy who runs around with a flag after the game if they win. I don't know. That's a good question. And being a lifetime Chicagoan and Cub fan, I probably should know that. But I do know that there's a urinal on the stadium in the right when you come in on the east entrance, and they never have towels. They never have paper towels after you wash your hand. That's another thing that a lot of fans want to talk about. Why no paper towels? You know what else I miss? I really, really miss, and one of the reasons I used to go to games more often is they used to have ice in the urinals, so that when you urinated, you actually could melt the ice, and they don't do that anymore. And it really, to me, it was charming.
That was good sport, and there would be competitions, two guys standing next to each other, each with their own urinal full of ice, to see who gets rid of it first. And the winner would get a free beer. So that was a pretty cool contest. I think that is a shame, some of these nostalgic traditions going by the boards here. But the Cubbies, if they don't have a mascot, I'm surprised. But the Yankees don't, because they're too classy for juvenile things like that. But I thought every other team in the majors did.
They did have a mascot, and it was stolen by by some gang. They did have a mascot. That was a while back. Also, I think one of the things that I find really interesting is the way the concessions are coming up with different novel ways of providing food. And the new one I like is the nacho helmet, where a helmet is actually made out of nachos. And so, if like, let's say you're wearing a helmet and the fan behind you can't see, just give him time. He's gonna eat the helmet. So what's the big deal?
Yeah, or the fan behind him is going to dump salsa on it and eat it himself.
Or cheese.
Yeah, that's more likely to happen. But, the stadiums these days are just built to pander to the players, not to the fans. The fans squeeze into these tiny seats. Balls are hit out to them, and they don't seem to ever land where they're supposed to. You never come away from the stadium with a ball unless you steal it from a little girl. So it's just not the way life's supposed to be. These stadiums need to be rethought, reconstructed, and reimagined.
One of the things fans have been asking me about is why are all the catchers basically left-handed? You don't have right-handed catchers.
I've never noticed that. As far as I know, most catchers I know are right-handed.
Well, the problem with a right-handed catcher is you're usually most batters are right, bat from the right side. So if you want to throw down to second base, you got a whole lane to throw in. But if there's a left-handed batter, you don't. So I think that's why there are more right-handed catchers. But that seems to be discriminatory. I mean, there's a whole bunch of left-handed people that can't catch in the major leagues.
Well, that's why in the Yankees this year acquired, and a couple guys are in the minors going to be brought up pretty soon. There's a lot of good switch hitters in baseball, but these are switch throwers. They can come, and depending who the batter is, they either throw back with their left hand or their right hand. Just depends on if it's a right or left-handed batter. So that's a big advantage. And those catchers are going to make a lot of money because they can go either way.
Another thing is I've noticed the other day is the number of injuries. Sunflower seed spitting has been a big thing in major league dugouts for quite a long time. But by the seventh inning, there's like an inch of saliva and seeds on the floor, the dugout floor, and that's starting to become a hazard.
Well, it's also beautification of nature because when they can never sweep them all up. And after a couple months, you'll see sunflowers sprouting all over the infield grass and the outfield near the dugout. I mean, it's pretty. It's wildflowers. And you take them home to your wife, put a bunch of bouquets together. Mm-hmm. Those seeds burrow down and they sprout. That's nature.
Another caller wanted to know about the frequency of irritable bowel syndrome and athletes, and what happens, in a game like that. You just can't leave your position.
Well, that's true, and they do get irritated pretty much. So, what are the symptoms of that? What happens in that? It's just kind of painful gastrointestinal feeling?
Yeah, and you got to go to the nearest toilet, and that's a problem. And then there's a whole other thing, and it's become a strategy, is a lot of times what they do is they'll have a catcher, and they, he eats whatever it takes to have severe flatulence, and that disturbs a batter.
Well, yeah, especially if it's coming from the catcher right behind him. Both the sound and the smell would really make the batter unsteady.
Yeah, and that seems unfair, and there's probably should be some kind of penalty there. And another thing that I noticed is that a lot of fans don't seem to even pay attention to the ball game because they're on their iPhones and everything like that. And what about the idea of maybe taking the iPhones away from fans before they enter the ballpark?
Well, then you'd miss a lot of opportunities for texting and raving about your favorite player and taking pictures. I mean, that's a big part of social media. That's how these stadiums get their attention. Speaking of attention deficit disorder. But I think what was I going to talk about? Another sport that is fascinating. Oh, football. I was just amazed to see the draft. I don't know if you followed it, but for years thought the Jets were going to be dynamo Super Bowl contenders, and they always disappointed me. And once again, they disappointed me. But the Lions, where I grew up, that was my team. They seem to have a powerful offensive line now, and they're very offensive. They'll swear and yell at the other team defensive players. They're very offensive people. So that's why I think they're going to be strong this year. But I'm disappointed to see the Jets still floundering. So until they get a new head coach.
Let's talk about team nicknames. The Lions, for example, I think we're really talking about endangered species. Many teams are named after animals that are almost in danger of going extinct. And then, of course, you name the Jets, the New York Jets. Do you realize how much pollution jets cause in our atmosphere?
Well, and at the stadium, they really crap it up out there on the field, so to speak.
Let's talk about pregame meals. Nobody really talks about what these athletes eat before they play. Do you have anything to add there? Because I know when you were playing, you didn't really pay much attention to nutrition.
I didn't really have to. I was bulked up on steroids, so that took care of everything. I mean, man, I looked like the Hawk himself. I love that. unfortunately, they finally found out, and that's how I got bounced out, and why I'm doing this, radio shows now. It's all I've got left.
What about, there's so much to talk about. What about fans being more involved in the game itself? I've always thought that why not, part of the home field advantages is sometimes the crowd should be able to, instead of going to instant replay or something like that, what about the fans getting like one or two plays a game where they can decide safe or out, ball or strike?
I think that's the ultimate fan engagement, better than social media. I think it's a terrific idea. Everything that happens, the umpires turn to the crowd and they all hold up their cards, yay or nay. There's a quick count or a voice vote.
Or actually, you can use the cell phone for that. You can enter in your decision on the cell phone.
Well, that's true. And then they announce it down on the field. And either you see that fist come up, he's out, or the hand stretched out that he's safe. And that letting the fans be involved is good for the sport, I think.
Think about this. If that's the case, that would be a great incentive for the visiting team's fans to come to the ballpark, right? Because then then maybe there could be a more fair, as the crowd, it's like a voice vote or something like that. But if they have more visiting fans in the park, there's a chance for them to counter the home team fans.
That's true. Yeah. You see that in the NBA, like New Yorkers travel to Philadelphia to just hype up the energy and turn off the other team. It's a pretty effective strategy. So, and that would be great, be able to get your votes in by showing up. I think the fan participation is what's missing in the sport today.
Imagine they don't even let them run around the field. They get arrested. It would be kind of interesting if fans were allowed to meander around the field after it's a park, right? It's a ballpark.
Yeah.
And then the players have to deal with, meandering fans that are, could potentially get in the way.
Yeah, they should be allowed to express themselves. Very un-American to keep them cooped up in the stadium seats. That's not really right. They should be able to have, and the First Amendment should allow them to be down there and say and do whatever they want. Should be no penalty for it.
Imagine, now think about this, the excitement. An outfielder's trying to make a play and a fan gets in the way. So a player, look at the skill level necessary not only to concentrate on catching the ball, but to fend off a fan.
That's true. And especially if some of those motorcycle gangs come as fans and they come down 10 or 12 of them at a time, surround a player, he's going to hesitate to catch that fly ball knowing it's going to make them unhappy. It adds a whole new fascinating element of drama to the game. And
danger. And I think, let's face it, why do people crowd around car accidents and stuff like that? Why do people watch the Indy 500? They want to see that crash. They want to see those wheels go flying into the crowd. Imagine the stories you say, I went to the Indy 500 and a car catapulted or tumbled into the crowd. And, that's something people remember forever. I was there.
That's for sure.
Yeah, when Mario Andretti took out the first 15 rows of one of the part of the bleachers.
No, years ago, I think in the 40s, remember Ferrari had that horrific Le Mans crash, and literally the car did go flying right into the stadium crowd. In real life, that was absolutely horrific.
And the race went on. They just kept going.
Yeah. Yeah. That, of course, goes without saying. You can't.
That's what I love about rugby. People get injured during a rugby game, and the game continues. They'll even have a medic come out on the field. I couldn't believe this. I saw the All Blacks play the Team USA at Soldier Field in Chicago in a rugby match, and there would be periodically there would be injuries, and then the guy will be laying on the field and he's being given medical treatment while the play continues. I love it. Matter of fact, I think they should do that in hockey as well.
Yeah, and that's why they have priests on standby in the stands to administer last rites if it gets too serious. I think that's the part of the game that people overlook, but that's what the drama and excitement really comes from.
But then you have to also find out what the faith of the player is. Well, he could be Jewish, he could be Muslim, he could be a Buddhist. So you'd have to have a whole assortment of clergy, right, from different religions.
Right, on standby, right, and then the umpire and the trainer runs out. They check out what kind is he wearing, a cross or Star of David. Then they signal to the proper, it's like a bat signal goes out.
Yeah, the guy with his hands gives the sign. He puts up the sign of the cross with his hands. That get Christian,
Right.
and then whatever. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah.
And then the proper priest or rabbi comes running out of the stands. But Catholic. I mean, that's a wonderful new twist in giving people the proper.
But what about an atheist? Then what? Let's just unceremoniously take him out of the stadium, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Take him away, let him go.
Yeah.
No one comes, no one cares.
Yeah. I think we're going far afield of the sport right now itself. What about boxing? Boxing seems to be awfully physical. I mean, the idea of punching someone, I wonder if they could have boxing where it's more like flag football, where you like, if the guy has a series of like ribbons on him, and instead of punching him, you don't even have gloves, you just grab ribbons. So the goal would be to fend off the guy from being able to grab a ribbon off of your body. Then you wouldn't have as many injuries.
Well, that's true, but it wouldn't be nearly as exciting. It's like the race car analogy. You want to see action, drama, people getting hurt.
So actually, do you want like flaws in the cars? You want like all cars have to have a flaw in them that creates the likelihood of an accident.
Right. The fatal flaw, they call it literally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I guess now they have coming into the stadiums, they have cars that actually float. They're like, it's a new thing that they've created where cars can float above the crowd and hover. And just
like a hovercraft?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just gets a little dicey when they do that on the field, but as long as it's outside in the parking lot, it gets them there quickly. But some of them get carried away and go up over the stadium onto the field, and that really unsettles a pitcher to have something hovering above his head.
Fence, one thing, and you and I read widely and everything, and sometimes the most interesting news is what does not make the news. No one is talking about the escalating violence in World Championship chess.
Yeah.
I mean, I just saw the other day when in that one tournament where one of the grandmasters was so frustrated he just picked up the board and hit his opponent right over the head with it. And there's no equipment, there's no any kind of protective stuff, and people throwing rooks and pawns and all kinds of things. But the media is blacking it out. There's no discussion of it.
Yeah, there should be little cones of silence over each side, little glass tubes that they sit under.
Like put plexiglass between. You have to put plexiglass just above the board so they can move the pieces, but just above that, you could protect the other player from being hit by a projectile or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's a smart way, and I think that gets more fan interest. I think they'd find that fascinating to see the hand movements under there. I noticed in a similar match when that was being experimented with, a lot of the hands underneath the glass would be giving the other guy the finger. That didn't seem very sportsmanlike. But
you really can't stop that. The other thing I noticed is you don't see big crowds anymore for bowling. Whatever happened to bowling?
That's a damn good question. That used to be fascinating, but so many of those bowling balls were literally bombs, and they knew when they roll it, they didn't know once it hit the wood if it was going to explode or not. Yeah. That was a new terrorist tactic being employed here.
The other thing is, and I think there is a certain amount of whether it's DEI issue or not, but why do bowling balls only have 3 holes for fingers? I mean, we have 5 fingers. That's something that's troubled me for a long, long time, is why only 3 finger holes in a bowling ball?
Well, I think primarily because if you have 5 fingers in it and you throw it, your fingers are, 1 or 2 of them bound to get stuck, and you'll go flying down the court or down the alley yourself with the ball.
But so what?
Well, that's true. That wouldn't be fascinating, but then you unfairly would get a lot of strikes because you're having such a big mass coming down there that all the pins would go down. So that kind of wouldn't be fair. And not to mention, you'd probably lose 1 or 2 of your fingers being stuck in the ball.
That would add an element of danger. I think the fans Or actually what you could have is then you put a goalie down at the end in front of the pins to fend off the sliding bowler.
Well, that's true. That's a whole sport concept. That to fend off.
Yeah. And then you know how slick the bowling lane is. They really keep it very slick. It's almost like people trying to skate on that thing. And you have instead of a pin spotter, you have a bowler blocker kind of a guy. And, and that's hard to stop a guy. You got a big guy going down that lane, maybe he weighs 200 pounds. How's that guy going to stop him? And the rule is, though, you cannot stop the bowling ball. You can stop the bowler, but not the ball.
Yeah, and if the bowler is attached to the ball, that gets very hard to do.
But I mean, that's
very dangerous
that's
job.
right. But it would add an element of, imagine the crowd would be a lot bigger. So I don't know. We'll have to something to think about.
No, I think that's something we should patent. I think that has shot him being one of the hot new sports in America now.
Yeah.
That bowler goalie, that is fantastic.
Also, what about, in sports, I notice most of the athletes are all under 40 years old, even younger. Why can't we have senior citizens participate? Shouldn't there be a quota in some of these teams where you have to have different age groups?
Yeah, and different sexes, different religions, everything should be accounted for, to be fair, whatever the sport is.
I just noticed this the other day, and I'm going to actually do a survey, I think. There are no Amish baseball players in the Hall of Fame. None.
Huh. Unbelievable.
I know.
Could that be because there's no Amish baseball players?
No, I think it partly is because Amish people don't use powered vehicles and things like that. They only use horse-drawn carriages. And how are you going to go on road trips, or how do you, you might be able to play home games, but how are you going to go anywhere on the road?
Oh, well, that's a good point. That is a good point.
So yeah. I'm guessing that's the real reason.
Huh. Well, that would add a nice dimension to the sport, though, because the Amish are very gentle people. So there was only certain, like curling, they'd be good at. But, football, no way. I mean, they're very gentle, calm. So it'd have to be or chess is another good example. Sports that are calm and tame, I think the Amish would be great at. And that would solve that discrimination problem.
Also, why, you see... in politics, you see a tremendous amount of animosity now between the partners and parties, and I don't take a position. I consider myself an independent. But wouldn't like a fist fight to solve, like dueling, remember Hamilton and Burr? What about dueling, or at least some kind of physical violence can decide an issue instead of vote, if they're deadlocked, just have, select like David and Goliath, each side select somebody and fight it out. And then the winner, that determines if they're going to pass some legislation or not. I think that would, instead of having these, boycotts and people, not, locking out people and not voting, and why not just have it, do it the way men used to do it back in the day? You just fight it out.
Yeah, well, I think because they did try that for legislation back with Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Burr, and didn't work out too well because the guy that got bumped off.
Well, it didn't work out for Hamilton.
But he had all the good legislation.
Yeah, he did. He did.
That, unfortunately, that was a big blow in America, and that's kind of when that idea came and went.
Just settle it the old way. Just have it out. Matter of fact, that could kind of be interesting as to why don't we have sports, like let's say we have the world championship of something, but you only have athletes. Why not? Like, let's say you're going to have this, you'll have the World Cup. Why can't you have like the world's greatest current philosophers versus maybe the world's greatest boxers or something like that, and then you have they engage and they use the philosophers using debates and arguments, and then the boxer, of course, all he does is all he can do is punch and see who comes out ahead.
These are the fascinating new areas for sports that I think the world needs to be aware of and seize on, because this is, getting pretty boring. Football doesn't have much longer to run. Baseball is passé. So a lot of these sports are really become dull.
Even in boxing, why just have boxers? Could you imagine it would be kind of cool to have somebody like Plato going against a guy like Mike Tyson? Tyson wants to throw a punch, and the philosopher throws out an idea that totally confuses the fighter,
Yeah, that's why I understand Socrates was one of the greatest in the boxing ring of his time, because he had so many profound philosophies.
Well, he was the founder of soccer, too, wasn't he?
Socrates too, man.
Yeah. Well, we're running out of time, and this will be an ongoing segment that we'll periodically do. But that's our ADHD version of what a talk show should be like with people like us. So we hope that we'll try to do this again sometime soon. But this is. This is something I think fans have really been asking for, believe it or not, and I think this is something that we'll revisit, and we'll do it again.
Yeah,
so
new thinking. Absolutely, that's what the world needs.
So anyway, this is Chase Squirrelson, and our episode today was about a talk show conducted by a couple of people with ADHD, and I'm sure that if you got anything out of this, please let me know, because I don't know what we got out of it.
And this is his buddy and cohort, Fence Buster, who's always happy to be here and add my perspective.
See you next time. If this episode hit home, don't keep it to yourself. Send it to someone who'd get it. You can follow the show so you don't miss the next conversation. And if you feel like it, a quick rating helps the show a great deal. Either way, I appreciate you being here. We'll talk soon.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. The content reflects personal experiences and opinions and is not a substitute for professional medical, psychological, mental health, or legal advice. Flint Rock LLC, the hosts, and guests make no representation or warranties and assume no liability for decisions or actions taken based on this content. Always consult a qualified professional regarding your own situation.